And right now, we're going to enter this next session with another mindfulness practice with Ryan Shea, who had a discussion yesterday, but is someone who is really practicing some tradition that comes from the first wave of this happening. So what we're trying to do here, people try to do this earlier, I think, at the beginning of the 19th century, realizing that some of this hard division and the Enlightenment between the first and third person perspective wasn't really viable. It kind of got overwhelmed by subsequent technological progress, various historical things. But Ryan really is trying to develop some of these really important insights that those people came up with, especially Wolfgang Goethe, Rudolf Steiner, and really trying to live this as a practice and a way of approaching science from the first person perspective, see how that integrates. So now this won't be a discussion, this will be just this practice that Ryan will lead us through about the next 10 minutes, and then that will lead into our workshop. So Ryan, if you want to take it away.
Yes, thank you. So I shared in the chat just a link to the Nature Institute where I am. And one of the first things they published in their first journals about 27 years ago, articulating what they're striving to do. So if you want to take that and look at it later. So
I don't see it in the chat. I'm not sure.
Or
no, yeah, it is. It's just a few
posts. It's up. It's right before okay. Bobby's. And could I get share screen? Could I get co-host?
Yeah, let me get that for you right now.
So I was doing that. So we here are very, as Bobby said, work with a kind of phenomenology that's deeply motivated by and indebted to the German poet and novelist and scientist Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. So I'll begin with a small short verse from his Faust. Two souls, alas, reside within my breast, and each withdraws from and repels its other. One with tenacious organs holds in love, and clinging lust the world in its embraces. The other strongly sweeps this dust above into the high ancestral spaces. So beginning with this recognition of the possibility of something like a division or a separation within ourselves. But I want to move back into this practice that we do so frequently, returning to our breath. So I'd invite you to close your eyes, attend to your breath, breathing in, becoming aware of your inhalation, breathing out, you're breathing out, coming back into your body, into your breath, into your senses of your immediately accessible embodied environment. Then noticing the difference between the awareness or sub-awareness of breathing you had before you drew your conscious attention to it, and the awareness that you have of your breathing now. These two different experiences of breathing. That now you can have yet another experience of the relationship between your experience of breathing when you're not attending to it, your experience of breathing when you are attending to it, and your experience of the relationship between those two. This leads us into the work that the Nature Institute tries to do and that I try to do, which is a deep phenomenology of nature. So this is raising this question that is always at the heart of our work and what I try to do, but also I think at this conference, and especially today, the question of the relationship between contemplative studies or first-person experiential orientation and science, complexity science, a third-person attempt at understanding. And the primacy of experience. Do these two come together in some way? The Goethean tradition strives always to use experience both as its alpha and omega. So you begin in experience, you stay with experience, and you strive to come back to experience. The motto that Goethe uses here is he says that every new object clearly beheld opens up a new organ of perception within us. So Goethe invites an idea that the work of thought and thinking is not to explain the phenomena that you encounter, but to enable the possibility of seeing new phenomena, of having experiences that would have been inaccessible otherwise. So I want to enter a small, you could call illustration of this. So we'll do a little mathematical exercise together. So if you open your eyes and look at the screen, we'll do a small amount of math together. I'll ask you a experiential question. What do you see? So just unmute yourself, say what you see.
Hexagon.
It's a hexagon, right? Everybody sees a hexagon? Not just
Yes.
lines, already you're noticing of the hexagon. You don't merely see lines there. So we'll make it a little bit more complicated, just a small mathematical exercise. So then what do you see now through these lines?
Lattice.
Cube. Hexagon.
Lattice.
A lattice, yeah? So you see a hexagon, there's lines drawn between it, yeah? Everybody sees six
Yep.
little pie pieces. And now, as Bobby suggested, try looking at it one more time with the word, the idea, the enabling logos of cube. Do you see a cube? I saw Pavel
Yeah.
see the cube.
Yeah.
I saw it too.
So now the cube pops out. So attending in the way that you attended to your breath is always there, but you are sub-attending to it. You can then bring your attention to your breath. That you can then bring your attention to your attention of your breath. And all of those are experiences that you can have. You can look at this hexagon and have the immediate experience of a hexagon because you've had past experiences with a hexagon. However you want to account for that of what's going on there, you've been enabled to see this. The word cube is not an explanation or a theory that is accounting for what you're seeing. It is an idea that it is enabling a new perception. So this becomes a sort of icon, a small little game or model or toy for what Goethean phenomenology is striving to do and what a new organ of perception might mean. So in this very small case, the word cube provided a new organ of perception. So what I want to do for the next 2 minutes is put out some accounts of what polarity is from Goethe and Coleridge. So I will read in a slow way their accounts of what polarity is as a suggestion to take forward through the rest of this conference, trying to work with what I'm about to read in the way that you just worked with the word cube, not as an explanation of the world, but maybe as enabling something new to show up. So here are these accounts in this way. So first, the thesaurus lists the other meanings of polarity as difference, separation, opposition, contradiction, contradictoriness, antithesis, duality, antagonism, conflict, dichotomy, things we generally tend to not want to do. And what Goethe and Coleridge enable is a way of moving past the desire to avoid opposition into maybe a new way of taking it up. So here's what Goethe says about polarity. Whatever appears in the world must divide if it is to appear at all. What has been divided seeks itself again, can return to itself and reunite. Before Goethe, by a century, the German mystic who influenced him, Jakob Böhme, puts the idea in a more accessible way. Hear this again in the way that I said the word cube. Nothing without contrariety can become manifest to itself, for it has nothing to resist it. It goes continually of itself outwards and returns not again to itself. And lastly, I'll read several passages from Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who to a large extent was consumed with the idea of polarity as a fundamental enabling, of an idea enabling new ways of living in and experiencing the world, a mode of taking up thoughts that would be a unification between what we're calling contemplation here and what we're calling science here. Coleridge gives the most highly articulate, but the most difficult. So just try to let these live in you and see if you can carry them forward over the next couple days. Coleridge says, every power in nature and in spirit must evolve an opposite as the sole means and the condition of its manifestation. And all opposition is a tendency to reunion. This is the universal law of polarity. He articulates this polarity more concretely as follows. He says that the quote, the transcendental philosopher would say, grant me one nature having two contrary and polar forces, one nature having two contrary and polar forces, the one of which tends to expand infinitely, while the other strives to apprehend or find the self in this infinity, and I will cause the world of intelligences with the whole system of their representations to rise up before you. So the notion, the idea of polarity that Goethe and Coleridge are putting forward is that you have things that are truly opposed to each other, truly can only exist with each other, and through and by means of each other, in the way that we have a magnet. The North and South Pole are fighting each other, but only coexisting together. And I'll make this as a suggestion, instead of going through it, going back to a breath meditation. Now feeling when you inhale, you are not merely bringing in the atmospheric air, you are making it cease to be atmospheric air and become breath. You're unairing it and making it into your breath. Then when you breathe out, you are unbreathing back into air. And if you consider inhalation and exhalation, they are opposite. The work of exhalation is to undo all of the work of inhalation, as one might dig a hole and then fill it back in. And yet, breathing, the activity as a whole, would be what Coleridge would call the one force, the one power of which inhalation and exhalation are the two opposing and mutually enabling capacities. So the invitation that I would have for you to bring forward is to take up this idea of polarity and to see if it illuminates anything from this conference. To attend to tensions when they arise. Have tensions arise where you wanted to say two things, but you felt like you needed to make a choice one way or the other. And the invitation, I think, from Coleridge and Goethe would be attend to that tension. Don't try to get rid of it. And then strive to see what are the two things that are producing that tension, and is there a way in which they're not a way to be chosen between, but a polarity that arises between them. So Pavel's first and third person, or the cooperation and competition that Martin Novak talked about yesterday. But keeping this in mind and seeing if this idea of polarity might be able to become something like the cube, a new organ of perception. So take that forward and